Welcome to the Hot Rod Hangout Podcast.
Whoop whoop.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Ashley.
And continuing the High Class Trash Build-Off Invitational, we have Adam. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, man? Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Living a dream, sweating. Everywhere else it's snowing and cold.
Well, it's snowing and cold here. I just came in from the garage. I legitimately was working out there 20 minutes before I came in to record this, and it's about 8 degrees. That whole polar vortex thing is hitting us in Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah, so it was funny because we're looking around, and I was looking at some of the places where some of y'all are from, and I was like, oh, the weather doesn't look that bad. And then I happened to look up like this week, and everywhere Saturday, Sunday, Monday was like negative or like real single digits. And I was like, I didn't even know a thermometer went to negatives.
Yeah, it was 10 this morning when I got up when I went to work. So yeah.
It is currently, it's not 10, I can tell you that. It's currently 53.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. But gentleman last night I had on, he was talking, or last episode, he was talking about it's a different kind of cold because he come down here and he was he's like, y'all's 50 is like, feels way colder than like our 30.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a shorts at 50 kind of guy. So, I mean, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. So like moving to Pennsylvania, it's nothing. I mean, it'll get cold and everybody's worried about it, or a little bit of snow hits the ground and everybody's driving like a grandma. And I'm like, dude, let's go. It's just a little bit of fluff on the ground. Let's keep moving.
Well, Pennsylvania, and I could say this because my wife's from there, y'all have the worst drivers. Like everybody says that Florida drivers suck, but in y'all's defense, your roads make no sense either.
No. Well, see, the trouble is, so where I'm in central Pennsylvania, the mountains that are cutting through the state go on kind of a diagonal from southwest to northeast. So none of the roads can really be straight. So you're either going over a bridge or a tunnel, or you got to go around a mountain to get somewhere. So yeah, it's not like Kansas where you can drive, 100 miles in a straight line without seeing anything. It's totally different.
We had went up, and she, Ashley's from the eastern side over by Philly.
Okay.
And we like pulled up and I'm like, these roads make no sense. The driveways make no sense to me. Because as a car guy, like we see a driveway that's straight vertical. That's not the house for me. And like we turned out and there was a 5-way stop. And I was like, I have no clue what's going on here. How do you even know which road you're going down?
Yep.
And then everyone doing, which this is weird for Florida, this is where we get tripped up. Everyone was doing exactly the speed limit.
Yeah, it depends on where you are. If you get on I-80 or you get on the turnpike between Philly and Pittsburgh and you're on the turnpike, watch out, man.
Yeah, so down
Not
here...
only are the people going real fast, but the Pennsylvania State Police are watching for you. They'll be hiding behind anything to get you.
Yeah, and it was crazy. But it says about 2 days in, I was like, okay, you grew up here. I'm just going to sit over in the passenger seat. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to hope for the best. Just get us where we're going, because none of this makes any sense to me.
Yeah, but the nice part about it, though, is you can go from being somewhere where it's relatively urban, and then you can go off into farm country, and you can just go for a country cruise, and it's gorgeous. If you get off, the pay toll highways, and you're just on the backcountry roads, you can drive for hours, and it's just going to be a gorgeous scenic road. You'll pass Mennonites, you pass Amish on the sides, and it can be quaint. And, it can be a cool ride if you know where you're going and you're looking for a cruise through the countryside. But yeah, the cities like Philly, it's not for me. I'm just not a big city guy. Even Pittsburgh is a probably relatively smaller city. But yeah, the roads in Pittsburgh, I just hate navigating them.
Well, when we were there, we were up there for a reason, and we had some time. So looking around, obviously we're both car people, so like, what's going on that's anything car related? And the Philly Auto Show was going on, so we went and did that. And then also I shoot archery, and Lancaster archery supplies up there. So I was like, all right, cool. So we hit both of those, and it's like busy to middle of nowhere. And then the Amish people cruising on the little buggies. And I'm like, it really is like, I was talking to a buddy that's he's from the UK, and he's like, I could never figure out why y'all didn't travel. He's like, we always like travel out of the country. He's like, until he come over here, and then he figured out, he's like, every state is like another country, because you can go from like straight sticks to busy and not even have to leave the state.
Yeah. I mean, you can drive hours and hours and be in one state, or you go to Europe and you can pass through 3 countries in 3 hours.
Right. So what originally got you into cars?
So, I mean, cars are just a hobby for me. I've kind of always liked them. I mean, I'm a Gen Xer, so I was the kid, had the Lamborghini Countach poster on on my bedroom wall. I had the Top Gun poster on my wall. Cars I just like them. I had Matchbox cars. I had RC cars. They're just cool. They're fun toys. So, as a kid, I didn't have any family influence. And I didn't have family that was into it. I just kind of found it as a hobby on my own. The first thing I ever bought with my own money was a 1979 Chevy pickup, 2-wheel drive, nothing fancy. I bought it for $135. It was a turd. And I bought it because my dad had some land in the country and we wanted a field truck. So we took it out there, me and my buddies, and we beat the snot out of that thing. I mean, we crashed it into trees. We just beat it up. That was a poor truck. But I went to Sears when there was Sears, and I bought just a mechanic's tool set, right? In a blow molded box. And, the first thing that went was the starter, and I had to replace the starter. And then eventually the transmission blew because we were just, tooling around in the field. So I went to the library. I mean, this is how long ago it was. I went to the library, took out a physical book, like a Haynes manual or something like that. And I taught myself. I read the book and I figured out how to take the transmission out and just messed around with it. But as far as cars, I've had everything from that to a 1967 Plymouth Belvedere. I currently have a Chevelle. I have an International Harvester Scout. I have, if you watched some of the videos that I put out, I have the thing that I built for Rat Stock was a 1937 Chevy Master Deluxe, which was just a totally random thing I found on the side of the road. But actually getting into like building cars, if that's your question, the first car that I actually built was during COVID.
Okay.
Like my actual fabrication, I bought a plasma cutter and I bought a welder. I remember it was December of 2020, and basically everything was shut down, and I got COVID like real early on, and that was when like you got 10 days of quarantine, you can't go out, can't see anybody, you can't do anything. I was like, well, screw it, I got to do something. So I had a 1946 Chevy pickup, and I decided I was going to do a 3-inch chop on it. And in retrospect, you look at these things and the thing is terrible. I mean, it rattles, it makes noise, it's loud. I mean, you hit a bump, it's not on airbags or anything. It's just static lowered. The springs were cut. There's not even spring rubbers in it. So you hit a bump and everything's rattling and it sounds like everything's going to fall off of the truck. So I just kind of taught myself. I have no formal training. I never took a class on metal shaping or welding or anything like that. I just kind of thought it was fun. And, I learned basically from YouTube. I watched Half-Ass Customs and Bad Chad and Rat Rod Bob and, these channels. And again, it was, when you couldn't go out and do anything, you're socially distanced from everybody. So why not do it? So I had at the time, I just had a 1-car garage in the basement of my house, and it became my shop. And, I went after it and I gave myself a goal and I built the thing. So my formal training is the internet and YouTube. So that's kind of probably different because the other guys you interviewed, you've had a couple of these episodes drop already. And I'm listening to these guys and they're telling me like they're professional drag racers. They've been on nationally syndicated TV shows. And I'm like, dude, what am I getting myself into? This is stupid. I shouldn't be here.
Well, so you in your, or not in your defense, to your credit, there's a lot of people in every class here that could really shake stuff up. And I'll be honest, I watched the time lapse video of your rat stock car.
The 37?
Yes.
Yeah, for rat stock, yeah.
Yeah. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't tell that was anywhere near your first or second or third. It looked like you knew what you were doing. So at least you winged it enough. And also the cars that you pick, like you said, that truck, you picked literally probably not the worst, but one of the worst cars to try to chop first. Everybody chops a Model A first because they're straight.
Yeah, I mean, they're straight up and down. You don't have to worry about the pillars or anything like that. I mean, that was one where, I taught myself by watching. It was one of these where, okay, I watched it and I'm very hands-on, right? I got to go actually physically do the thing and figure out, okay, when you cut the metal this way, this is what happens. And then you got to plan for the next step. When you make a relief cut, how are you going to weld this back together? Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, you would think that you wouldn't pick a 4-door sedan and decide to chop the roof 4 inches.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you'd given me the YouTube, so I'd went on there and me and Ashley were watching it and I'm like, man, this guy's got some skills. And then it looked, like I said, it looked like you knew what you were doing, so you at least sold it there. And I was like, because a lot of times, I'm fortunate to know some of these guys that are chop specialists. They have chopped a lot of cars, and watching some of their videos, I'm like, how are you fixing to make that gap? And you could tell, and maybe this is from watching those guys, but you could tell it was like, okay, that's a hole. This needs to get stretched out here. That's where that needs to be. Now I have to figure out how to get that to over there. And it looked, in the video at least, it looked like it was a very well done. So good job on that.
Well, thanks. I've had people since Radstock reach out and say that they thought, and I'm not bragging or anything, they just, they said that was my favorite car of the show. And I thought, wow, man, that's awesome. I mean, I did it as a personal challenge. Here's the thing. And the way I found out about it is, again, I was watching YouTube, and Anthony at Hardcore Fab, he put a video out and it said, here's Radstock, and they're going to do a build off. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I mean, maybe I'll reach out, because I have no reason they would choose me. I have nothing to lose. Right. Why don't I just do this? And then I was kind of blown away, just like this one, when Jeremiah pulled the names and, did his reveal and everything. I really, after looking at the cars there were at Radstock, like you mentioned Mike Wheeler earlier, and he had the Hellcat, right? I mean, that thing was just insane. And I looked at the other builds that were there, and I'm thinking, there's no way the number of skilled builders that are out there, I don't belong in any of the classes. If anything, I should be in the newbie class, but I probably don't qualify for that because I already built one for Radstock, so he's not going to let me do that. Right. But Jeremiah was great. He actually, so my story of Radstock is when I got there, Jeremiah it was hard to find the judges, and the way it worked is they were supposed to walk around and talk to you, and there were 5 or 6 of them, I forget. But it was like 95 degrees out. You're sweating your balls off in a parking lot with no shade, and occasionally you got to go to the bathroom, you got to leave, you got to go in the store to get some air conditioning or whatever, get some food. So I only ended up talking to 2 of the judges that day, but Jeremiah was one of them. And he actually spent 5 or 10 minutes talking to me, asking questions, and was like, man, he's a really cool dude. So, I really am honored that he picked me to do this as well, because, I mean, again, looking at the quality of builders that are out there, and I consider myself a total novice at the thing. Again, I'm just doing it as a hobby. So that's really cool that he picked me for this.
Yeah, and there's obviously, the outlaw and the OG class. There's a lot of those guys that are awesome builders. and I was talking with somebody and they made a comment. I was like, oh yeah, this is the class to watch out for. And I told them, I said, I think that you're going to be surprised at the newbie and the blue collar class, what some of those guys bring, because a lot of the blue collar guys that I've talked to have the same mentality as you, as I don't belong. Why am I here? You know, look at these cars. And y'all have all had pretty cool cars or pretty cool projects that a lot of people, y'all are giving a lot of people inspiration on, oh, well, if they can do that, why can't I? You know, maybe I'll go out there and I'll cut, and who knows, maybe I can make it go back together. Or maybe you create something that wasn't the way you originally intended, but it worked out one way and it actually looked better than it did in your head because it worked out differently.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about rat rods is that there's so much creativity that goes into it. You look at someone's imagination or their inspiration, and the way they add to the vehicle, the way they combine different vehicles from different eras, fenders from this and a hood from that and a cab from another thing, and it's just really cool. And custom exhaust work and the bead rolling and just fabrication, it's really cool. I mean, you can look at all the, we were talking before we jumped on here about, shiny shows. Camaro's a Camaro. I mean, you can shine it up, you can put all sorts of chrome on it, and it's still, like, you can appreciate a car for being an awesome car, right? I'm not trying to take away from that. But I think if you're looking at pure creativity, I think that the rat rod kind of guys, they get it, right? I mean, you're just physically doing something, you're creating, you're using your hands, and you're building something.
Yes.
That whole built, not bought mentality. Because you can go into Summit and you can order, thousands of dollars of parts and just bolt them together. Well, I mean, that's building, yes, but I think it really comes down to, for the rat rods, it's the creativity that everybody has that's the most impressive to me.
Well, and even the cars that you buy parts for, and I'm going through this right now with the Cadillac, there was a lot of parts that came with that car, a lot of expensive parts that came with that car that don't work together.
Mm-hmm. Like they don't fit, you mean? Like you bought them out of a box and...
Well, no, it would fit.
Like they should?
It would fit, but because this happened, this no longer works because it's no longer, a good, for instance, is it's got a Holley Terminator Max X wiring harness for the LS.
Right.
It's got a brand new fuel tank. So run an external fuel pump to the lines, bolt it in, you're good to go. He bought a Holley drop-in pump. It's great. It's a great product. Except for there's absolutely no way to get lines to it because the tank isn't off the floor that far. So your choice is to either bump the floor up in the trunk, lower the tank, which the car sits on the ground, so you can't lower the tank any.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to, you don't want that to be the skid plate.
Mm-hmm.
Or fill the hole back in and buy an external fuel pump, which is what I did.
Yeah. Well, so one problem leads to another problem.
Right.
Or one solution creates two other problems.
And all of those would work. It just won't work with the way, if you were going to do a Holley drop-in pump, Boyd sells that tank with that fuel pump in it. Don't modify it. Don't buy a brand new tank to modify it to make it work when you could have. And it's just, a bunch of things that, you buy. I hate to say this, because it'll get misconstrued, but it is what it is. You can go to Advance and buy all of this crap. And Rat Rod, there's people that look like they glued and welded, and
yeah,
I'm sorry, it's not my thing. If it is yours, cool, whatever, but that's not me. But you look at a vehicle and you go, and we used to do it with motorcycles all the time, like 5 minutes and a wrench would make that way cooler.
Mm-hmm.
Take off the tassels or the exhaust that makes absolutely no sense. it's just a flare, or for cars, it doesn't need a milk jug, strapped to the side of the car for no reason. It doesn't serve a purpose. Why is it there?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really, really easy to get gaudy over, just shit.
Yeah. Well, I think, again, in the same kind of line of thought is if you're looking at rat rods, everything kind of, it either has a purpose or it has been repurposed.
Right.
You look at how people create different parts of the car out of things that weren't originally indicated for that, or just totally taking random parts and building something. You look at how many people make bumpers out of crankshafts out of some giant Caterpillar, excavator, or they've got the typical pistons for headlights or your brake light housing, or they're welding together nuts and bolts to make a hand that's holding onto your mirror, all those kind of cool things. They're just so individual. I think again, that's just the kind of creativity showing itself for this whole build off that Jeremiah put together.
Yes. And also, that's the stuff that I was talking about. That's cool. That's different. But the cutting a perfectly good floor plan just because you want to weld in license plates in the bottom of it, or making shitty welds just to have shitty welds. Like I see you TIG welded the chassis over here. You don't need to stick weld that chop just to say it, it's ugly. No, do good,
Got it.
And a lot of times the rat rod, because the original rat rod term was coined by Hot Rod Magazine as an unfinished, unpainted hot rod. It was never meant to be the, oh, look at me, crazy rods that people have taken it to. And then with everything, people take it further than that. And now you start seeing stuff that's not, not safe.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think that's the nice part about Jeremiah's thing is he also said that, they're going to inspect your stuff when you get there. But for me, we're driving from Pennsylvania. This thing's going to be on the road. Like I have to drive it from Pennsylvania to Mississippi. So I already looked it up on the GPS, and it's going to be like an 18-hour drive for us. So, I better do some breaking in. I'm getting some eyeballs off from the side here that I'm going to be doing some breaking in. Yeah. But like for the rat stock car, I was working on that legitimately until 4 a.m. before we said that. I did trailer out to Illinois. Full disclosure, I didn't drive it all the way from Pennsylvania to there. But about 4 a.m. is when I realized, oh crap, I didn't put seatbelts in it yet. So then I had the seatbelts, I had the bolts, I just didn't put them in yet. Mm-hmm. So here I am, 4 a.m, drilling the holes, putting the bolts in, putting the seatbelts in. The most I ran the vehicle was from my house to where there's the auto glass place where you put the windshield and the rear window in. And that's about 1.5 miles, maybe 2. And then basically that was it. Put it in a trailer, drove to Illinois. Well, the place we stayed was about 45 minutes from Psycho Silo Saloon. So my legitimate first time on an open road driving this thing, brake check, everything, was from our Airbnb to Psycho Silo Saloon. And it ran perfect. It was awesome. I was like, I was in heaven. I was on 0 hours of sleep. We just drove, I think it was like a 12, 13-hour drive for us to get to Illinois where the show was. And it didn't matter. It was awesome. I was just, there was grinding dust flying off of the windshield. It was great driving down the road. And, then here's another comment about just the community of either just cars in general or rat rod culture. So this is the first thing I ever built that had airbags. I've never used airbags before. I bought an S10. The wheelbase was wrong, so I had to lengthen the frame 4 inches to match the Master Deluxe. Then I found the engine I couldn't fit it under the hood, so I had to move the engine back almost a foot or more. So these are things that I've never done before. But the point is, when I pulled into Psycho Silo Saloon. So the way rat stock worked is you were supposed to show up there. Everybody kind of gets in their cars. You talk to everybody else. And then you had to drive an hour to Davenport, Iowa. So I pull in and I park the car And then I hear, and the whole front of the car just drops right down to the ground without me doing anything. I was like, oh shit, I just broke an airline. And now it's on the ground and I can't get under it because I have the thing when it's aired down, it's on the ground.
Yeah.
And I was in like freak out mode. How am I going to do this? I ran right up to Jerry Ripley because he was doing some MC stuff at the stage. And I said, if there's anybody who can help me, like my car just blew an airline. And I'm not kidding you. Within 5 minutes, there were 10 people over there. They had splices for me, and we had a solution to it, and I was able to finish the drive.
And that's the gentleman I had on last night. He was talking about he's not doing air ride because he's trying to keep it simple. He's in the newbie class, and he's like, I'm just trying to keep it simple. And honestly, you know, that is... my Cadillac has air ride. Ashley's car will eventually have air ride or hydraulics or something to make it go up and down. But if you've never experienced it, you don't know to carry an extra bag, to carry airlines. You know, if you have manual valves, bring O-rings, because all of that stuff is going to fail at the most inopportune times.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm just like, imagine it had happened like 5 minutes earlier, right? I'm 2 miles from the venue and I'm on the side of the road on the ground with nobody near me. I mean, I couldn't have been more fortunate where it blew out on me because then I had the people with the supplies to fix it. But yeah, I mean, again, I had never built anything like that. I had no experience with it. I finished with such little time to make the drive out there. I didn't have any testing time on it. And, you know, I was just really fortunate.
But also with building the car, you kind of had some insight on how to fix it too, because you were the one that ran the airlines. You were the one that ran, you know, you can understand. Whereas, you know, you buy a car that's already on air. If you don't go through it, you're going to figure out where they cut a corner. And
well, So here was my cutting corner, you know, so like I'm running the airlines and because, you know, so it just has a Vortec V6 because that's what was in the S10, right? I just figured I'd run it. It's a small block Chevy minus 2 cylinders, right? It's a great engine. I've had trucks with them before, but I put headers on it and I ran my airline and it was a little too close and it got hot and well, so in the process of splicing the line and fixing it there, they had a breakfast for the people who were participants. And so we grabbed a bunch of the foil containers that like that you keep your food warm, like for a buffet or like a barbecue picnic. And I took a bunch of those and I cut them into strips and I created an insulation for my airline so it wouldn't get hot again while we were driving.
And that's the fixes, that's the stories, that's what kind of we all do this for.
Yeah, and you know, when I was building for that, again, I just watched YouTube because I learned from it, and there's a guy who's in this one, Simon Havikan. He was one of the guys that I watched his videos and his build for that as well. He was one of the first guys who came up to me and was able to, you know, get me the splice for the line. So yeah, I mean, it's my own fault that it happened, and I was able to fix it, but I couldn't have fixed it without having support from a great community. And I really think that's kind of what I'm looking forward to for this is, you know, because there are more people that I see on YouTube or on Facebook and they're posting about their builds. And Jeremiah is very much about the, you know, getting people involved and kind of showing off their talents, which I think that's, you know, part of his personality and his strength is bringing people together and building a community. Which I think, you know, there might be some people who have, you know, egos or haters or whatever, but you know what? Everyone that I've had contact with, it's been awesome. It's been super positive. And, you know, another thing that happened when I got back. So first, I'm sure that the people listening to this are familiar with what Ratstock was and or is. And at the time, I mean, I do have YouTube. It's not big. It's coming up on 2,000 subscribers after like 5-6 years. It's not like I'm trying to become some massive YouTuber and get thousands and thousands of people. But when I pulled in, somebody came up to me and said, "Open your door." What are you talking about? I watched your videos. I want to see how you put those sills together. I want to see them in person. I was like, really? Like this guy, like I'm nobody. And I showed up in the middle of Illinois, and this guy wants to see in my car because he watched my video and he wants to see the welds that I did in person. I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That was when we started this. There was another podcast that helped us out, and we were talking one night after the episode, and he's like, man, the first time that you go somewhere and it's not a local show and somebody calls you by your name, you're going to trip. Yeah, and I went, it's not going to happen. Cool. And when I got invited on the road trip out to California, I was in Salt Lake City, and I'm just walking through the airport, and the dude's like, hey, man, have a good road trip. And I was like, I'm by myself. So I wasn't talking to nobody. I'm like, what the hell? So I turn around, and he's like, you're Matt, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you're going on a road trip with Ken Sainer and Brian from the hometown, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, can you sign this? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, man, thank you so much. And I was like, what the hell just happened? Yeah. And he's like, I listened to you.
super awesome or super creepy the first time it happens. I don't know.
And it's funny because, and me and Brian have talked about this too, is people, our podcast, me and Ashley, like, it is our life. If you hear it on here, it's actually what's going on. We don't really ever, like, we're not playing characters. Where theirs is a little bit of shtick. It's garage talk. They push it a little bit, and people ask him questions, and he's like, they know more about my life than I do about. And he's like, because it was a joke, but they don't know it's a joke. And he's like, oh yeah, you remember so and so and so, and he's like, I have no clue what they're talking about. And I was, and he's like, it's very, very weird. And I've talked, Corey and Hannah Wheat say the same thing. There's so many people that have a giant following that you would think don't want anything to do with you, or they're too busy for you or anything like that. And you get them alone, while they're in that mode of selling merch or whatever, they might be a little standoffish, but you get them by themselves and you're just hanging out, and then they're just another set of homies. And
that's what's so cool about, again, I got to meet all these awesome builders, and you could just talk to them. They just tell you about their ride. Like, hey man, how'd you do that? Like, can you show me this thing that I saw on your car? And they're perfectly willing to talk to you about it. And, again, it just comes down to the community. I think I've really, really enjoyed that part of being involved in it. And again, like I said, I've only actually been building. I put that in air quotes because I just do it for fun. Yeah. And it's cool. I really didn't start a YouTube video because I wanted to get followers. I did it basically just because I want to document the fact that, hey, I really did this thing.
Right.
Like I did it with my own hands. You can watch the video and you saw that I built it.
Well, and in the age of social media, you can go back. That's one good thing of social media is I can see cars that I had 5 years ago, or what I was working on, or what I was doing. It's kind of like a scrapbook without having to take the time of putting a scrapbook together. So like you doing your build on YouTube, you can go back and be like, oh, that's what I was, that's what I did, or that's how I figured that out. Run into a problem, you can go back to that video because you ran into that same problem. Well, how'd I do it back then? Or Simon, Corey, Andrew, Anthony, any of them. You can hop on their YouTube channels and see, oh, they ran into the same thing, or, oh, I'm thinking about doing this. And then you're like, Simon tried that and it didn't work.
Right. Well, I can tell you, so, going back to that 37, I consider it the hardest part that I had to do is because it's got kind of like the humpback and the profile of the rear window. It was not it was so boxy, and I didn't like it at all. And I knew that I wanted to really lower the profile of it. And when I cut the roof off, and then I had to not only change the angle of the A pillars, I had to move the B pillar, and then there's a C pillar and a rear window. And I mean, I had all these things that I had to account for, and change the radius of the rear window and all these different things. And I'm looking at the one day when I had to do all these relief cuts and these pie cuts in the rear of the roof to bring these two pieces back together they were separated by like 5 or 6 inches. And so I watched Half-Ass Custom when he had done a car where he took 4 inches out of the roof, and I just watched the video and was like, okay, I see. I could probably do that. And then I went out there and I tried it, and it kind of worked. And I was like, okay, well, again, I'm very hands-on. I'm just going to try it. And if it works, it works. I'm going to figure it out as I go. So that was one of the videos where I think I really felt like I had accomplished something, where I had taken something that was and looked like an absolute disaster area. You know, I probably had 6 relief cuts, and the metal's just flopping around, and I actually made a decent looking roof line out of it. Yeah. At least I think so. I mean, I think it looks pretty cool. I love driving that car.
Well, you had mentioned that you also have a Chevelle, and you know you're getting ready to build something. So what is currently the favorite car in the fleet?
So this is going to sound weird, but after Ratstock, I went a totally different direction. And I don't know if you poked through any of the other videos that I have, but I built an Exocet. It's a tube chassis car. It's based off of a Miata. There's a company, it's called Exomotive, and they're actually from Georgia, I think, down your direction. But basically what you do is you take a Mazda Miata, and you take the first generation, second generation Miatas, and you take the body off. So basically you delete 1,000 pounds, and you buy this chassis from Exomotive. And so you basically create this insane roller skate is what it is. And I'd have to say, so if I'm cruising, two things. If I'm cruising, I just want to go to work and I want people to smile and wave at me, it's the 37. Because it looks cool. It kind of looks like, you know, Dick Tracy, something like that. People, and then I can drop it on the airbags, and when I park at work, everybody's like, whoa. But this other one, the Exocet, I put a turbo on it. It was a stock Miata, is like 110 horsepower. I put a turbo on it, so I'm getting like 170, 180 horsepower, which doesn't sound like a lot, except when you know that the car weighs like 1,400 pounds. Yeah. And it's about 3 inches off the ground. And it is an absolute blast. We were talking earlier about how the roads in Pennsylvania suck until you're on a 180 horsepower roller skate. And it's freaking awesome. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's a huge advantage to deleting things. And I deleted everything. And it's a cool looking car because it's a tube chassis. It basically looks like, you know, if you were to take a sprint car and put it on the road, because it's just a tube chassis. There's nothing to it. Mm-hmm. So that, I mean, I say that's fun because, or one of my favorites, just because it's very recent and it's a ton of fun to drive on a sunny day. You're just booting around in the countryside. It's awesome. But for like shows, I really like the 37. The Chevelle I've had for a long time. I haven't done a lot to it. It's nothing special. It's a Malibu with a 350 in it. It's about the shiniest thing that I have. And it has its own qualities, and I'm going to keep it probably forever just because I've had it for, at this point, probably 15 years, and I see no reason to get rid of it, and I cruise it now and then. But, you know, like we talked about, it's a pretty car, and it kind of has sentimental value, and I like driving it, but it just doesn't have the same kind of, I don't know how to put it. It doesn't really get your blood flowing, your heart beating as much as the others.
I understand that because I love looking at a muscle car. I just have no desire to own or drive. You know, I love 69 Camaros, 67, 68, 69. I love Camaros, certain Mustangs, Mopars from that era.
Again,
I love them.
I like cars.
They're just not. I wouldn't walk past them. I'd go look at them and I'd tell the guy he's got a nice car. Mm-hmm. But then if there's a channeled car that looks like it can't make it out of the parking lot, that's the guy that I identify with because I'm in the same boat.
So, I'm here where I live. I'm a member of what's called the Blair County Antique Auto Club. And I'm probably the youngest member by 20 years. And, I think about that, and I'm looking at these guys, and, they have their traditional hot rods and some of the classic cars and the muscle cars, and it's awesome. But, I mean, if I had my way, I would just call it the Blair County Auto Club. Because I like cars. Like, I want everybody to be able to show up like you're doing your hangout, right?
Yep.
And you're just going to hang out. It doesn't run what you brung kind of thing. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter if it's shiny, or if it's a rat rod, or, it's just got a lot of patina on it. I think I'm more just, I want the culture to survive. And unfortunately, there's a lot of the gray-haired guys who have the muscle cars that are super shiny with lots of chrome on them. And when they pass on, I mean, are their grandkids going to want them? Like, who's going to want them? I mean, I can say the same thing about my cars, right? I have 2 daughters. They're teenagers, and they could give a shit about what I'm building. I guarantee that. But for this build off, I just recently had a son, and so my YouTube channel is Marek Makes. That's my middle name. So his given name is Marek. So I'm building this, and I plan on it being his first vehicle. Like, the thing that I'm building for this show, I'm going to hold on to, and hopefully he enjoys it, and, he can take over sometime. I like the culture. I like cars. And I think it's a shame that there's, seems like, or at least feels like, that younger kids coming up, they're not interested. And I think that's a shame. I really just like cars. So it's hard for me to pick, to your question, what's my favorite car? Because I just like cars. Yeah. They all have their qualities, but right at the exact moment, right now, zooming around in a roller skate that feels like a rocket ship seems like the most fun right now.
Yeah, and that's to your point of the younger guys not being in this. There's so much, because we've ran into, like, doing cruise-ins, we'll have some of the younger kids show up, and they'll either put themselves in a place where they aren't in the action to get talked to, or they'll get put off to the side. They'll get pushed out of the group. And a lot of it is, because I've had to deal with this, and Ashley has to deal with it, being a girl in the car culture. You get people that don't necessarily believe that you're in it. I work where I work. I deal with a lot of the older generation that have very cool cars. They don't get out and drive them like they should, in my opinion. But they love their cars. And I'll see something and I'll say, oh man, that's a beautiful Camaro, beautiful Chevelle, Mustang, whatever it is. Man, that's an absolutely beautiful blank. And they look at me like, oh, you just read that off the side of the car? Like, no. And I have Ashley's car tattooed on my inner bicep. And I'll make a point to point at something so my shirt comes up so they can see the grill. And then they're like, wait a second, what's on your arm? Like, that's a 54 Chevy. That's my wife's car. Oh. And you kind of have to earn their trust, or earn that you want to actually hear about it, because they've tried, whether it's their grandkids that they've tried to shed knowledge and the grandkids have no interest, or it's not. Today's cars is an easier route to go fast.
Yeah, like tuning, you mean, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So, you're not much older than I am. But back, my high school days, and then obviously before, if you had 1 horsepower per cubic inch, you were you were the man.
Yeah.
If your small block 350 made 350, you were killing it. Oh, now, there's 4 cylinders that come from the factory with 600. And it's like, wait a second. It's still cool.
Yeah, but there's a totally different feel to driving a muscle car that has that horsepower and,
Yes.
going in a straight line or trying to turn that thing,
Yes.
as opposed to something that can just stick to the road and it's got all-wheel drive and,
Yeah.
the sensory feedback isn't there. You don't have the visceral experience that you would with the cars that you're describing.
Well, and also, because for the longest time, and there's certain applications that I agree wholeheartedly that an LS motor doesn't belong in certain cars. But I'm not offended by cars with hoods that have LSs in them.
Mm-hmm.
My Cadillac has an LS in it. But all it is, the LS is the small block Chevrolet of this generation.
Sure. Yeah.
Everyone put small block Chevrolets in everything because you could go to the junkyard and you could pick one up for $400 or $500. Now you can go to the junkyard and pick up an LS motor for $400 or $500, barring fancy, car engines, aluminum, and all that stuff. But you could probably pick those up for less than $1,000. You could put some eBay turbo or eBay turbo or eBay turbos, make realistically 600 reliable, and never have a problem out of the car as long as you don't push it for $1,000.
Yeah.
Seeing these guys, that the kids that are doing that, and I have kind of taken on a thing of, it's cool to say you have 600 horse, but realistically, you don't need 600 horse. 400 horsepower on the street is plenty.
Well, let me tell you, in my little Exoset with 175 horsepower is enough.
Right. And it's at that point, you're kind of, and the kids, and I hate to say that, but the kids think like, oh, it's got to make 1,000. Yeah. Well, first of all, you've never been in anything that makes 1,000 horsepower. The cars that make 1,000 horsepower are not meant to do what you're trying to do with your car. That there's not 1,000 horsepower that like you just jump in and go to the grocery store and pick up your kids from school. That's unrealistic. That's race car category. That's meant to be used. Sure. Put a cam, supercharger, whatever. Make it sound good. Make 400 realistically.
Go do it yourself. Like actually build it.
And make it sound good. Because it doesn't matter. To me, a new car, the new Demon. Love it. Makes a lot of horsepower, a lot of this. It's a great car. Great application. Really crazy that you can go to the dealership and buy a 9-second street car. But an LS with a set of long tubes and a set of flow masters on it, I'd take it over it every day because it sounds better. Definitely a small block Chevrolet. Or small block, really anything with a carburetor on it. Nothing sounds better than that. You can't make a fuel injected car. I'm trying. I put a big ass cam in an LS. I'm gonna try to make it sound like it, but you can't do it. But also, we need to understand, as people that are in this world, or in this car culture, that the cars are no longer a couple $100.
Oh, I know. I mean, and another thing is they're not the ones that are coming out now. They're not going to, no one's going to build a Tesla 80 years from now.
No.
I mean, the truck that I'm building is a 1944 for the high class trash build off. It's a 1945 Chevy pickup. Mm-hmm. And I was able to go out a couple weekends ago. My cousin came down to help me. And we went out there and, we put a little bit of acetone and transmission fluid in the cylinders, put a new coil on it, cleaned up the cap and rotor, filed the points. And after a few hours, we got the thing running. And it's an 84-year-old vehicle.
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. You're not going to do that with cars now.
No.
They're just not going to be around.
But also, I'm saying that the older guys, it's got to be old. A 19, 20-year-old kid that's trying to start a life can afford one car.
Sure.
They can't afford it's very unrealistic I'm fortunate. My wife supports the addiction, so we have multiple cars. Obviously your wife is understanding and understands that, multiple cars is cool. But for a lot of people, it's their daily. Whatever they have has to act as the family car, the daily, so theoretically going and buying something with points and condenser and something that they're going to have to work on, and something that also you can't be in a rush. Mm-hmm. If you're supposed to be somewhere and it's going to take you an hour to be somewhere, if you're taking something old, leave an hour and a half early and you still might be late. That's just how it is. You have to embrace the suck.
This is true.
And you see it all the time. Like, oh, well, they're spending all this money on this. Well, that's what they can do. That's the car they have. That's the car they have to get. That's the car they have to modify. They have to do stuff with that. The days of going and buying a Model A for a cheeseburger and 25 cents is no longer available.
Right. Yeah. Your starter, whatever your starter is, as far as your donor vehicle, right. Whatever you're going to do to it. Yeah. I mean, you look at Marketplace, you can find things for, $800, $1,000, but you're getting a shell.
Yeah.
You're getting nothing with it. I've seen even just, the cowl of a Model A for like $500-$600 bucks. And that's all you're getting is the cowl.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, you did it kind of a little weird. Most people, I would tell people, if they're going to get into cars, pick something that's running. Don't try to build something, right off rip, because the first time that project stalls, you're done. My Cadillac, that's what happened. That's a stalled project. And the guy talked him out of selling it 2 or 3 times, and then finally the guy gave up and was like, fine, sell it. He sold it to me. I reached out to the other guy not knowing that they even knew anything about the car. And he's like, oh yeah, that's Alejandro's. I'm like, yep. He goes, yeah, I tried to talk him out of selling that car like 3 times. And I was like, oh, cool. Well, he sold it to me now. So, and that's what it was. He would get a little bit of work done on it. Something would happen, whether it was a bill, whether it was whatever, or he got to something that he couldn't figure out. He'd stop working on it. He'd get tired of looking at it. He'd put it up for sale. They'd talk him out of selling it. They'd come help him do a little bit of work on it, get him over that hump, and then he'd get to another hump. And the process would start over. So buy something that runs and drives. Buy something that you can tinker with. Buy something that you can do a little bit of stuff to. Or do it your way. Buy something that's complete.
I can tell you, there were speed bumps, and there were times when I would come in and I was sweaty and greasy and swearing, and I hate this thing, and I don't have any idea what I'm doing, and why am I doing this? This is a huge waste of my time. I can't do it. I'm never going to finish it. All right, give me a day. I got to, reset a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then go out there, and, I guess I'm a little bit more analytical about it, where I'll stop and I'll look at it, and, I actually have to sit there and maybe I'll clean the garage for a half an hour, so I can just not even think about the problem that put me in that mood, so I can actually stop and come up with a solution to it, as opposed to, playing a mind game where you're just like, nope, done, never going to finish this. I'm throwing the towel in, and actually, take some time to reset and figure it out. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that happened a bunch of times when I was building that car. I didn't think I was going to do it. I mean, I had it cut into so many pieces, and again, having never done a 4-door shop and trying to figure out all the where I'm going to do the relief cuts and all the things that I did to it, there were probably multiple times where I thought I was just going to never finish. And there was one time a buddy of mine came over, and it was the S10 donor, and you take the entire wiring harness out of it, and I've got this 20-foot long snake of 30 pounds of wire laying on the ground, and he's like, dude, that's stressing me out. I can't be in here, because he's just looking at the wiring that's on the ground. I'm like, yeah, I know. And when I've got the body up on a lift and the chassis on the ground and the chassis cut in half, it's like, dude, this was a terrible idea, and you're not helping me.
And that's
So
I've told Ashley on this, on the Cadillac or the Model A before it, F this, I'm done. I don't even know why I'm trying to do this. This is garbage. And walk back in the house, and she knows, just let me walk away and don't follow me, and I'll get over my little temper tantrum of I'm mad at myself. I'm not mad at anybody else. It's just me, not being, not getting done what I thought I could get done in the time frame. You go out there and you have a set thing like, okay, I'm going to accomplish this. And then you go out there and something else needs done that you didn't know.
Well, like you said about the gas tank.
Yep.
Right, you're fuel pumping your gas tank, right? Oh, I'm gonna go do this simple thing. I got 30 minutes right now. I'm gonna go do it, and then you're like, oh man, the world just collapses around you because whatever you were doing just went wrong, and now you've got 3 other things that you're gonna fix.
Well, or you're running airline, or you're running fuel line, or you're running whatever, and as you're running it, you grab a hold of the pumpkin of the rear end, and it twists, and you're like, wait a second, all that shit's supposed to be tight. Why is it turning? And then you look up and you're like, oh, okay, well, the ball joint and the wishbone above is gone. You're like, okay, so mental note, that needs fixed. And then you go back to doing something else and you're like, well, while I'm here, this other line was ran stupid, so let me rerun this line while I'm right here. Well, now that 30-minute job, like you said, turns into an hour job, because you either ran into something or you thought you had everything you needed to accomplish the job and you're a fitting away. Or you have the fitting, so now you go spend 30 minutes that you allotted to fix what you were going to fix, trying to find that fitting that you just had 5 minutes ago, or that wrench that you had in your hand 10 seconds before you needed it, and now you can't find it. We've all had, and like you said,
I'll tell you one of the things. So here's one that I thought was going to be not really that big a deal. Was all right. I'm just running the Vortec 4.3 V6. Right. I'm just going to get headers. I'm just going to run straight pipes out the back. Well, then I realized, oh boy, I put on airbags, so I can't just go straight back because it won't go over the axle, or I'm going to have to figure that out. It's like, okay, what's the next best solution? So my solution was, again, challenge myself to a thing I've never done. I just did through frame exhaust. So I cut giant holes in the frame. I got some 4-inch Schedule 40 black pipe, and I went out to the steel shop, had them cut 2 little segments, cut holes in the frame, welded that in, and then I ran my exhaust through the frame and then down along the door sills. That was like days of work to figure that out and to actually accomplish it. And it's like, that should have been something where if I could have just run straight pipes, you just go to your exhaust shop, you get an 8-foot stick, and you're done. Nope. I decided to make days of work for myself.
Because it's cooler.
It was cooler, let me tell you. And it was loud. Holy crap, was it loud. You wouldn't think that a little V6 would make that much noise, but man, that thing was obnoxious.
Oh, and that motor, to give that motor some credit, that motor is a real strong motor too.
Well, I don't need that car to go any faster than that. It's not. I didn't build it to be, a race car or to go do autocross or anything like that. I built it just because I knew the V6 was reliable. I've had them before, and it was, I know it'll start and run, and it'll get me from A to B. To your point of, you don't want to add an extra half an hour to your trip. Not that throttle body injection is like the coolest thing ever, but man, it functions and it works fine.
Well, and that's when Ashley's car is getting the motor that I had originally built for my Model A, and I'm gonna not put the tunnel ram on it. It'll probably end up with some sort of either single carb fuel injection or a throttle body injection of some sorts, because I want her to be able to walk out, breathe on the key, and it start. I don't want her to call me and go, I've been cranking this car for 10 minutes. Well, you probably smell like fuel if you open your door because you flooded the fuck out of it. And the worst thing is somebody telling you your car is cool and they're waiting for you to fire it up. and you're over there doing the cranky, trying to get it starting. It ain't starting. And it's always, and that's when it'll fail. It'll start every time until somebody's standing there and you're like, yeah, I'm fixing to show. The only time that car's ever not started and we were out, and it ended up starting, but we were pulled up to a gas pump, shut the car off, filled the car up with gas, went to start it. Fuel vaporized, would not start. I'm like, okay. And everybody's walking by like, oh, nice car. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. For about a cheeseburger, I'd give you this cracker right here. And then you like wait till everybody's not looking, and you like kind of like use your butt to shove the car over away so you can just like, oh, I'm waiting on somebody. Well, no, I'm waiting on the car to stop throwing a hissy fit so I can start it and drive home.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've had that happen a couple times. There was that the International Scout that I mentioned earlier. It was 4th of July a couple years ago. It's cool. I mean, it's lifted. It's got 35s on it. It's a cool looking truck. And I never had an issue with it. It's got a 4BT. It's got a Cummins in it, the 4-cylinder Cummins in it. It's cool, right? Nobody ever sees those, but it has always been like uber reliable. Starts, goes, no issues whatsoever. So we were cruising. We were gonna leave for the car show and turn the key. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Not a noise. No blowers on. Nothing works. No lights. What is going on? I had to get towed home. I mean, I found somebody had jumper cables. Nothing. Found I have a multimeter in the truck. I didn't have 12 volts anywhere. I couldn't figure anything out. So I get it home, blow the entire dash apart. And whoever had it before me, it's always the guy before you that was poking around in there. Well, the main lead coming from the power to the fuse box was basically, it was a spade connector that was jammed into a fitting, but then just like a pound of electrical tape around it. They didn't actually secure it in any way, shape, or form. But so whenever I parked, whatever happened, that thing jiggled its way loose, but it ruined my day. Yeah. I had to get a tow home. I had to blow the dash apart until I could find all the wiring, trace it down. And all it came down to is some lazy asshole before me didn't do it the right way.
Oh, and I'm that asshole because her car still has a zip tie holding the distributor in time. We were getting ready to go somewhere and it failed to start. And I'm like, what the? So like get under the hood. I'm like, man, it just sounds like it's not getting no spark. So I pull it. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting spark at a spark plug. I'm like, man, what the? And I reached over for something and I heard, everybody knows what a zip tie sounds like when it got old and it releases. That's what I heard. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell? And I know there was a zip tie there. It's been there the whole time. And I never questioned why it was there. I just saw it was there for some reason. I figured out why it was there. So I grabbed the distributor and I turned it. And I'm like, oh, that's not supposed to turn. Yeah. Well, then I look and I'm like, oh, that's what the zip tie was holding. The zip tie was holding the distributor turned. So I turned
So it wasn't even secured like at the base to the top of the intake?
So
it was just like tied to, what was it zip tied to?
The coil.
Okay.
So the mount is stripped out so it won't get any tighter. So you can't tighten the hold down.
The bolt that holds it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So the distributor is in there all the way and it's held down, but it won't stop it from spinning.
Yeah.
So the zip tie, you turn it as far as it'll go, and then you just tighten the zip tie and it started. And I was like, okay, cool. Addressed. We'll put an extra zip tie in the glove box. We'll go do what we're going to do and we'll fix this later. That was like 2 years ago. And now it's throwing a real big temper tantrum. So now it's getting a small block. And, that car, fortunately, has made it home every time. I've never had to go get it with a trailer. There was a trailer in front of it. That fuel story that I just told you. I'd come back and got the truck and trailer. And I was like, before we push this bitch up on this trailer, let me try it. I breathed on the key. It started. And I said, all right, throw the ramps in the trailer. You drive the trailer home. We're going to get to... I'm like, all right. So it has always broke down in the front yard. It has never left us on the side of the road. So now it won't run, but it's broken my front yard. So
That's
now
all
I
right.
can
It
get a
stay
small
in the front
block.
yard.
Yep. So now I can get a small block and an automatic, which she'll like that better because she can drive a 5-speed, but she gets real antsy when people are around. And it's an S10 5-speed, so hydraulic transmission, manually operated clutch pedal.
That's another thing that's fun about that Exocet that I built is like I love clutches. I love driving 5-speed, and it's just we were talking earlier about getting the feel for the car, the visceral feeling of driving, and there's just nothing like being able to drive something with a clutch. I don't. You can get all the creature comforts you want. You can get that 1,000 horsepower. You can do whatever you want, but that's just another thing that I really like is driving something with a clutch. It just makes you feel like you know, here we are in 2025, AI's around the corner and all this stuff. And I'm going backwards in time. I'm building older things that are more analog, and I really appreciate the feel of a 5-speed. I just love the clutch. I love holding it in gear. It's just wound up and ready to go. You keep it in the power band. You're just waiting to punch it.
I do and I don't. I love rowing gears, but I've gotten to where I'm just like, I just want to cruise. I don't want my left leg sitting, if I'm sitting trying to get in somewhere or I'm sitting in traffic. I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want it. Just give me an automatic.
Well, I guess you pick the day and where you're going.
Well, and
it depends on
different missions.
Yes.
And car builds are that way. The Model A that I was building was not going to be the road trip car. It was 6.5 inches of chop, 5.5 inches of channel, ton of ram, 2 600 carbs, about 4 inches above the roof, straight headers that had a standalone flame system so I could shoot flames until it ran out of fuel. It was not the road trip car. Whereas the Cadillac, I want it to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm doing nice. The Model A was going to be on hydraulic suspension. Just because. Whereas I want the Cadillac to ride like a Cadillac. Because they don't write songs about Lincolns. Anyway.
Well, for this build off, again, we've got a huge road trip, thousands of miles. And so the donor chassis that I'm using is a 2005 Chevy 3500 with a Duramax in it. I'm going to try and keep the chassis. I'm going to try and keep the suspension. I want to have the durability and the reliability of something modern for that kind of cruise because my family's coming with me. Right, so I'm building this, and it's a family road trip. So not only do I want it to be reliable, I want it to actually be somewhat comfortable.
Right.
Like the 1946 Chevy that I built before, that my first one, that thing, you drive 15 miles in that, and you're like, dude, I'm done. This thing, I mean, I put bomber seats in it. I bought them from Speedway, and they were like, put them together kind of kit. And they look cool. They're awesome. And I think bomber seats and rat rods are so cool, but you can't road trip in that. I mean, I'm 6'5", and I chopped that truck 3 inches. It's channeled about 5 inches onto the frame. So, I mean, those cabs weren't big anyways.
No.
Right? I don't fit in there. And trying to drive more than a half an hour in that thing is intolerable. But it looks cool.
And, yeah. Well, and that was, when we were, I told you why the Cadillac came around, but that was part of that decision was my wife was like, hey, I'm down to clown. And if we're taking the Model A across the country, that's what we're doing. But we got to sell merch to help pay for this trip. Where are we going to put that? And I was like, I'll ship it to somebody in California and they can bring it to the show. Okay. She's like, cool. What about luggage? And I went, well, it's like 6 days there. So we can just wear the same clothes for 6 days.
There's Walmart out there. You can get some new stuff.
And then we'll wash our clothes when we get to the Airbnb. And then we'll have fresh clothes while we're in California. And then we'll just same clothes all the way home. And she's like,
yeah.
She's like,
that would have gone over real well, I think.
She's like, she's like, I would prefer not. And I'm like, I would too, but what other, I mean, unless we like just randomly ship stuff to whatever hotel we think we're going to make it to that night, I don't really think that there's another option.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Cadillac came around and she's like, well, it's got a trunk and a back seat. We could have all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? Mm-hmm. You're right.
Nice squishy seats. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sounds a little bit better.
Yeah. But it's, at the time I had a Model A. So that's what was, I had to make, obviously that wasn't the right car for the mission, but that was what I had. So, and I didn't want to build her car because out there, there's 5 million 49 to 54 Chevrolets that are done the way that I want to do her car. So it's like, I don't want to blend in. But speaking of shows, what's a show or event that you try to make every year?
It's not really a car show. It's a car event. So you mentioned you've been up to Pennsylvania before. There's the Carlisle car show. There's one in Hershey as well, but Carlisle has a swap meet. And I mean, there are thousands of vendors. There's thousands of people selling stuff. So it's more of a swap meet thing, but they do sell cars and people take cars to it. So it's not really somewhere you go to show off your car, take your car, or cruise to. But if I had to pick something for anybody who's on the East Coast and you're into cars and you want to find something and you need a headlight bezel for a 1954 Chevy, you're going to find it there. If you need, there's just everything you could possibly want. They'll be selling chassis, they'll be selling custom front ends, they'll be selling everything. So it's kind of not really a good answer, but that's the one because it's close enough and it's relevant enough for me to go to. But now that I've been to Ratstock and I've seen what people do there, I think, that's something I would really like to do if I could manage it. Jeremiah's. Gotta include Jeremiah's.
Yeah. You're not too far from Ratstock, right?
No, Ratstock at Psycho Silo that's where I took the 37 and that was a 12-hour drive to haul that out there.
So that's a little ways.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought my geography for the United States is...
Well, so we got to get through all of Ohio and Indiana before we even get over that far. So yeah. Ohio's a wide state.
Yeah. That was going to California. There's no good way to get across Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go up above and try to hit like the Panhandle and Oklahoma, and I'm like, or we could just hit 10 and embrace the suck that we're going to be in Texas for 2 days.
And that would suck. Just being like I said, around here you can get on the interstate, you can get on I-80 or the turnpike, and you can get across the state. It's just going to be terribly boring. Everybody's going 85 miles an hour. There's nothing to look at. Or you can get off and you can do avoid the highways route on your GPS, and it'll take you longer to get there, but it's definitely going to be worth it.
Way better. So,
but getting to California, I don't know about that.
I will say, while I was out there, it was a complete car culture shift. So everywhere does car shows a little different, or cars in different, where we don't have a show. We don't have a show season. We have year-round shows. Our show...
Yeah, I don't have that.
Right. Our show is January 3rd. It's the first weekend of the year. We picked it because it kicks off the year. It doesn't kick off show season because we're going up to Georgia this weekend for a car show. So it's like, with that being said, going out there, they have very similar weather to us, but people that aren't into cars don't even know that there's a car show going on because it's normal.
That's crazy.
Like we went, so the road trip, we took a 55 Crown Vic mild custom. Air ride, shaved, beautiful car. And me and Brian, he gets in the 50 Woody. And I'm like, I'll take the 55. So we cruise up, get to the gas station, I lay it out, and I'm walking across the parking lot, and I'm fully expecting, because even in our cars that don't lay out, somebody will say, hey, nice car, or somebody will say something about the cars. I'm walking across the parking lot, and I'm like, somebody's going to be like, hey, man, nice car. I probably walk by 5 or 6 people. Not even like a mention. Nothing. And I'm like, what the hell? All right, whatever. And then we go to the cruise in, or the cruise night. They do a cruise night Friday night, and it is the baddest cars I have seen in my entire life. And we got invited to go back to a lowrider family's house after the cruise. And they're like, where'd you say you're from? And I'm like, I'm from Florida. He's from Texas. And they're like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, there's a car show. And she's like, oh. And then later on, the dad of the family was like, I seen that look. He's like, the reason that she doesn't know that there's a car show is because this is every day.
This is just life. Yeah.
And I'm like,
around here, that's not the way it goes. I mean, people are itching for the weather.
I was like, and then up there, y'all have the benefit of being able to put your cars away for a couple months to be able to do big stuff. So y'all view it as, oh, I don't get to drive it for 4 months. But we view it as, well, I'd kind of like 4 months to be able to, I don't know, take the car down. Because once we get a car up and running, there's no time to take it back down. So when a car comes out, it comes out.
It could also turn into, then you take it apart and then you can't get it back together in time.
Right. Well, that's why we don't take our stuff apart, is because we have a show next weekend. You know, and it's like, so a lot of times you get like, okay, well, I'm gonna get it together for X. And then once that show's over, I'll bring it home and I'll tear it back apart and I'll paint the frame and I'll do this over, yada, yada, yada. And then like 3 years later, you're like, good for instance, there's a zip tie on the 54. Like, oh yeah, I'll dress that when I get home. No,
some yard art. Yep,
you know, it's still there. And it's getting closer. I just got to get the Cadillac to be able to drive itself out, because I don't want to have to push it back up on the concrete. I have everything for it. I just have to get time. But yeah, so it's absolutely crazy talking to y'all, or anybody on here, because everywhere has a little bit of different culture and a little bit of different way of looking at cars in general. Like cars that we think are like super cool out California way are normal. You know, I've never had the opportunity to go out there, but I've seen plenty of videos, and like, I think there's a place out there called Bellows Customs. I've seen videos on YouTube, and I mean, the stuff they produce is just mind blowing how awesome it is. And I've seen videos of those kind of shows, and it's just above and beyond anything I can even imagine. And the what got me was, because I always brag, like, no one's weather is as good as ours. You know, and I always say that, our show. Like, I can invite anyone to our show and basically guarantee that our weather is going to be better than your weather January 3rd. That's pretty standard. California, I can't say that.
Yeah.
We were out there in May. You wake up, shorts and flip-flops, dress the same way I dress here, shorts and flip-flops, throw a hoodie on, standing outside, you're bullshitting. About 10 o'clock, you take take the hoodie off. You're in Dickies, Converse, T-shirt, and it's like 70. And I'm like, this is crazy. My buddy went out to help Seth Enslow chop a car. And, you know, he's in long pant Dickies, and he's like, man, this weather's nice. And Seth's buddies come over and he's like, man, it's so hot out here. I don't even know. This is a heat wave. And Chad's like, dude, well,
like I said, it's 8 here.
He's like, I'm in long britches. And they're like, yeah, we don't know how you're doing that. And he's like, it's 74. It's like 96 at the house. Like, this is not hot. Oh man, this is the hottest it's gotten. And he's like, it's just completely different. But because of the weather, you see cool customs every day. Model A's, Bello. The cars you see on his YouTube channel or cars that you see in the magazines, they drive them.
Yeah.
All the lowrider cars that you're like, oh man. The matter of fact, the guy's house we were at, he had just finished painting a 64 Impala. And his wife had like 1,000 hours in engraving under the hood. And she's like, I can't wait to go cruise it. And I'm like, I can't even.
I'd be afraid to go anywhere near it.
Like, as soon as he lifted the hood, I took a step back because I was like, man, I don't even want to. That just looks like it's scary.
Yeah, don't breathe wrong, don't sneeze, don't knock anything over.
But they literally it's a different thing out there, and it's awesome. It's cool. And then you have East Coast stuff, Virginia and stuff like that. They can car show, but everywhere has a little bit of different, and it's kind of cool. With doing this, it's kind of cool to talk to everybody and kind of see how people. Because, like you said, it's not a car show; it's a car event. That's what I'm talking about. I love because Turkey Rod Run, it's a show, but mainly the reason we like it is because of the car corral, the swap meet, and then the offshoots of it. You have the Bad Apple Rat Rod Bash. Stuff like
that was one that I went to this past spring was with Village Customs at the Charlotte Auto Fair.
Yep.
In April.
Mm-hmm.
So that was another one of those that I just kind of, on a whim, I was like, yeah, let's go to that one.
Well, that was the first time that's the first time Rats have ever been at that show.
Yeah, and it was awesome. I had my 46 truck there, parked right on the infield, right in front of the stage. So everybody had to drive around us. We were, you had the cars, the Corvettes were behind us, but, we were front and center in front of the stage. There were people walking by. There was a lady. She's like, what are these things? She said, what do you call them?
Yep.
She had never, mind blown. She had never seen anything like it.
So what is the plan for your build-off truck? What's the end vision?
So the quick summary is I found this truck. It was in a barn fire. It's a 1945 one-ton truck, but it had two cabs on it. So I was kind of like, I came upon it. Was the guy, it was a very unfortunate story. He's had the thing for like 40 years or something like that. The barn burned and it was just sitting there. The township told him he's got to get rid of everything. They're going to clean everything up. They're like, what would you take for it? He said $600. Okay. I was like, I'll take it. I had no plan. I just thought $600. Like, why wouldn't you buy a 1945 truck for $600? Because maybe I'll build it someday. And then Jeremiah's thing came up. And I thought, okay, well, it came with two cabs. Why don't I make a crew cab out of it? Okay, why don't I then do a chassis swap? And I'm like, let's do something awesome. Because it was a cool truck back then, let's just put a Duramax in it. So my vision for this is to take the 1945 truck and I'm going to make it a crew cab, but to make it fit on this 2005 Chevy with the Duramax in it, if you measure the firewall, I have to make the truck a whole foot wider as well. And it's a dually, and it's four-wheel drive. So it's going to be, my vision is going to be lifted. It's probably going to have 35s. I'm going to make the cab into a crew cab and about a foot wider and throw a really awesome bed, dual stacks, rolling coal, the whole thing.
Hell yeah. The fact that you're leaving it four-wheel drive, that's kind of cool too. And I was going to say, when you said you were swapping it onto a later model chassis, I was like, oh, that cab probably fits inside those frame rails.
Yes. It is the front of the truck, the firewall on the 45 is legitimately, I think I measured it, it's like 15 inches narrower than what's on the truck right now. So I got to take the other cab off, make this one wider. It's a good thing that I have a year and a half to build it.
Well, and to your point of trying to push yourself, I mean, this is...
Yeah. This is going to be it. This is definitely, I'm going big or going home for sure, because this is going to be a long-term thing to get it. I mean, I'm going to have to cut it into so many different pieces. I'm going to have to figure out the geometry of how it's going to fit over the other chassis and with the Duramax in it. The hood's going to have to be wider. The fenders are going to have to be wider up front because that engine won't fit under the hood. So the hood's got to get wider. That means I got to make the grill wider. There, it's one of those things we talked about where, one problem leads to four more. Yep. So, all of those things have to be taken into consideration.
Well, it's definitely going to be cool, man. And we're definitely going to be following along, and we're going to try to make it to the end to kind of see some of y'all, because I wish that we'd have been a little bit better, because I'd have probably tried to throw my hat in the ring for it. To try, just because it's going to be awesome to see what y'all come up with. And like I said, like we've talked about, the rat rod community is kind of what the car community needs to get back to.
Yeah, just build awesome, and just everybody appreciate what's out there. Again, maybe you don't think shiny things but you can still appreciate the fact that somebody took the time to build it.
Definitely. Well, what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's either looking to get into the rat rod side or cars in general?
Just don't be intimidated. I mean, you can do it. If you can pick up a wrench, you can figure it out. There's lots of resources. Again, I didn't have any formal training. I never took a class or a lesson. I just watched videos of people doing it. I watched YouTube and I learned from people out there. So, my videos are not for education. My videos are documenting what I'm doing. So if you watch my video and you learn how to do it the wrong way and say, I'm never going to build it like that guy because that guy did it wrong, that's fine. But don't be afraid to do it. Just challenge yourself, and, you can achieve it if you put your mind to it. It may take a while. You may make some mistakes along the way. You may get frustrated. You may swear, and you may want to give in. But, as long as you're trying and you put the effort, you're going to have an awesome result. And I think, like you said, newbie class, there's going to be guys that are going to show up and they've never built before, and they're going to have an amazing show. They're going to have awesome cars, and everybody's going to have something different. And I think everybody who gets there, the reward is getting there. They might pass out, a couple different trophies for, spectator class or whatever it's going to be. They don't have to be judges. It should just be about getting there.
Well, and that's the gentleman that had on, last night I talked to. That's what he said. He's like, the first victory or first challenge is getting there. He's like, then we'll worry about anything else. And he's like,
just get there.
Just one step at a time. I got to get the car to the beginning, and then I got to make it through to the end, and then it's got to make it back home. He's like, if all three of those things are, if those three things go mostly okay, I'm going to call it a success. And I was like, that's the perfect way to look at it.
Well, it was like my like I said, my break and drive for rat stock. It was leaving the Airbnb, open road, sunrise, the glitter of the grinding disc coming off the windshield. It was perfect.
Oh, and like I said, man, I wish y'all luck, and I hope that we're going to make it to the end to come check out what y'all are doing. And I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Is there anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to before I let you go?
I'll just point out there's a guy, Ed Venom. I know he's on Facebook. When I was at Ratstock, we were sitting on the back of my car. He built this crazy looking semi truck, and I put up a pop-up tent, and we sat there, and he's a crusty old guy who has a lot of knowledge, and I really appreciate just sitting there with him. I hope he listens to this. I know he's on Facebook, and I just want to say that, he was an old guy who reached out to me afterwards and said that he was impressed by what I built, and it really meant a lot to me that a guy that's been doing this for years and years had something nice to say about something I put together. So he's just a nice guy, and I really appreciate, the older guys who can look down and see us trying. That's all.
Very cool. And before we get out of here, I'd like to thank our wonderful sponsors. And also invite anyone that would be interested in coming on board as an advertiser for 2026. Reach out. We'll work something out, but make sure you go show Why Not Fab some love, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Always check out Throttle Addict, code word Hot Rod to get saved 15% off. Johnny Jalopy, check him out on Facebook, YouTube, johnnyjalopy.com. Wrenching for the Future, check out their latest builds on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And definitely a huge shout out to Psycho Fab. Well, with that being said, guys, till next time, guys, get out and drive your shit. Later.